Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we're looking at something custom made just for you, the listener.
Yeah, we're unpacking a really intriguing source text today.
Right, it's called The Art of Fluent English Expression. And specifically, we're looking at its central promise, how to speak English fluently and confidently.
It's an ambitious title, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this right away. What caught my eye isn't the mechanics outlined in the text, but the framing. It treats English not as a test you pass, but, well, as an evolving discipline. Notice the word art?
Right, the art. What's fascinating here is that it's a huge departure from your typical prescriptive grammar guides.
Those can be so dry.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Usually they're just endless vocabulary lists and strict syntax rules. But by calling it an art, the author sets a completely different intention. It treats communication as a nuanced, almost psychological practice, rather than just a mathematical formula.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Of course.
English does have incredibly strict syntax rules. Like if I completely scramble my word order, or if I say, the dogs is happy, I'm objectively wrong.
Sure.
So how do we reconcile the rigid science of grammar with this fluid idea of art?
Well, the text makes a really clever distinction between grammatical competence and what linguists call pragmatic competence.
Pragmatic competence.
Yeah. So, yes, syntax is rigid, but pragmatic competence is knowing how to say the right thing, the right way, in the right context. The author is basically arguing that grammar is just the baseline.
The entry fee.
Exactly. The art emerges when you go beyond just constructing a correct sentence and start making actual stylistic choices. Let's say a colleague asks for a favor. You could reply, I will do this.
Graphically flawless.
Flawless. But you could also say, I'd be happy to take care of that for you. Both are correct, but they have completely different social weights, different tones. The artistry is in navigating those subtle shifts.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about the physical delivery. The text dives a bit into prosody.
Oh yeah, the rhythm and intonation.
Right. English is a stress-timed language, so the rhythm is driven by the stressed syllables, not every single syllable. If you deliver a flawless sentence with the wrong cadence.
It sounds totally disjointed to a native speaker.
It really does. And the meaning can actually change entirely. Like, take the sentence, I didn't say he stole the money. Depending on which word you stress, that sentence has like 7 different meanings.
It's a perfect illustration. If you stress I, it implies someone else said it. If you stress stole, maybe he borrowed it. The text points out that high-level proficiency means zooming out from individual words to look at the melody.
And that involves looking at collocations, right?
Yes, words that naturally group together, understanding how they flow as a single unit of sound.
Which naturally brings us to the second half of that title, How to Speak English Fluently and Confidently. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text presents fluency and confidence as a paired, dual goal.
They're inseparable.
Yeah, it doesn't treat them as isolated skills. So let's break down the mechanics of fluency first. I think a lot of people think fluency just means speaking really fast.
Right. Speed is a super common and very misleading metric. The text defines fluency through the lens of lexical retrieval and automaticity.
Lexical retrieval, that's pulling a word from your brain.
Exactly. It's your brain's ability to access the right word at the right time. When you're truly fluent, that retrieval happens with very low cognitive load. You aren't consciously assembling sentences piece by piece.
Like a jigsaw puzzle.
Right. Instead, your brain automatically pulls entire phrases, or chunks, and strings them together. Fluency is about the absence of friction in that process, not the velocity.
Not the velocity, I like that. And that friction brings us directly to the other half, confidence. We all know that feeling. You have the vocabulary, but the moment you step into a high-stakes environment,
A job interview.
yeah, or a room full of native speakers, your brain freezes. The words vanish.
It's the psychological component. The author leans heavily into this, and it aligns perfectly with Stephen Crackson's effective filter hypothesis.
Let's talk about creation. His framework is vital here.
Absolutely. The effective filter hypothesis basically says that emotional variables, anxiety, self-doubt, fear can create a literal cognitive block.
A block that stops language output.
Yeah, it's not a metaphor. When you lack confidence, your amygdala triggers a stress response.
Yeah.
You release cortisol, which impairs your prefrontal cortex.
Which is exactly the part of the brain you need for lexical retrieval.
Exactly. So your lack of internal confidence physically sabotages your external fluency.
So telling someone to just be confident isn't just motivational fluff.
No, it's a neurological prerequisite. If your effective filter is high, the data can't pass from your memory to your vocal cords. That's why someone might ace a grammar test in a quiet room, but completely stumble at a networking event.
The environment spikes the anxiety, the filter goes up, and the fluency evaporates. But what about the opposite? The text mentions a major pitfall, where someone has a ton of confidence, but lacks the mechanical fluency.
Oh, yes. You see this a lot in immersive environments. Someone who is utterly fearless, dominating conversations, but their syntax and pragmatic competence are deeply flawed.
The classic overconfident beginner, the Dunning-Kruger effect of language learning.
Yeah, they feel great about their output, but the listener's working incredibly hard just to decode the broken rhythm.
And what's the danger there?
What linguists call fossilization. Because this highly confident speaker is successfully communicating basic needs. They order coffee, they find the train, they get positive reinforcement.
So their brain thinks, hey, this broken English works.
Exactly. The brain assumes the broken mechanics are sufficient, and those errors become deeply ingrained. Fossilized. They plateau. That's why you need both.
You need the internal confidence to let the language flow, but also the rigorous refinement of mechanical fluency to ensure the message lands right. Fluency is knowing how to operate the machinery. Confidence is the fuel that runs the machine under pressure. And when you get that equilibrium, the text argues you reach the ultimate goal, which goes back to that word in the title, expression.
The art of fluent English expression.
Right. It draws a really sharp line between just talking and actual expressing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really hits on the concept of identity. Talking is just making sounds. Communicating is an exchange of data.
But expression.
Expression is deeply tied to the self. When you express yourself, you're projecting your intellect, your humor, your nuances into the world.
And it's so frustrating for advanced learners when they feel like they have a diminished personality in their second language.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They might be incredibly witty in their native language, but feel robotic in English because they haven't mastered the art of expression.
I find that concept of the L2 self, the second language identity, so compelling.
Huh.
Language shouldn't feel like a restrictive costume.
It should feel like an extension of your own skin.
Exactly. Closing the gap between who you are internally and how you present yourself externally.
It's about recovering your full personality.
So how do we actually do that? The text gives some concrete frameworks for shifting from a mechanical speaker to an expressive one.
One core method is shifting from word-level thinking to chunk-level thinking.
Right, because if you're translating individual words and assembling them, your cognitive load is maxed out.
You have no mental bandwidth left for expression, tone, or body language. But by practicing collocations and memorizing entire chunks, you automate the syntax.
And when syntax is automatic, you can focus on the emotional delivery.
Exactly.
The text also leans heavily into shadowing, which I love.
Shadowing is fantastic.
For the listener, shadowing isn't just passively listening, it's actively mimicking a native speaker in real time. You aren't just repeating words, you're copying their exact intonation, their pauses.
The way they drop a T at the end of a word.
Yeah, even their breathing. You're trying on their pragmatic competence.
It's so effective because it bypasses the analytical brain. You aren't analyzing why they used the past perfect tense. You're training your articulatory muscles to produce the natural rhythm.
Building that prosodic map.
Yes. And over time, that borrowed rhythm becomes internalized. You start applying it to your own thoughts and develop your own unique voice.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Why does this specific framing matter to you, the listener? Whether you're prepping for a big pitch or just navigating a new workplace, adopting this mindset transforms how you approach language.
It really does.
If you view spoken English as a test where every mistake loses you points, you're just raising your effective filter. You're inviting the anxiety that sabotages your fluency.
It forces a total paradigm shift. You stop asking, did I make a mistake? And start asking, did I convey my intent?
You start noticing the artistic choices people make. How a pause can command a room. How a shift in intonation diffuses a situation.
You realize confidence isn't the absence of errors. Confidence is the resilience to keep communicating effectively even when the mechanics aren't perfect.
The overarching theme here is that communication is a unified system. It's aligning what you want to say, how you say it, and the belief that your ideas deserve to be heard.
This raises an important question, though. How do you maintain this balance? The fundamental takeaway is that mastery isn't a destination.
It's an ongoing practice.
Yes, a continuous feedback loop between nurturing your inner confidence and refining your outward fluency. They feed each other constantly.
Building on that idea of language as a living art form, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. If speaking English fluently and confidently is truly an art, who is the audience for your art?
Hmm, that's a great question.
And how does your internal confidence change the way they perceive the masterpiece you're speaking into existence? Think about the people you interact with. Are they getting a hesitant, filtered version of your intellect? Or are you using the mechanics of fluency and the power of confidence to show them the full, vibrant expression of your ideas?
Something to really think about.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's always a privilege to explore these concepts with you. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and start treating your conversations as your own evolving work of art. Until next time.